Greetings to the anointed. A late confession is only a confession seeking a discount. Let me warn you about the chosen ones. This isn't simply another instance of spilling the tea. We are going to discuss the type of truth that causes no healing. It tears off the bandages, revealing their true depth. You know, psychological research indicates that most people lie because they have changed their minds. They tell it because it is now riskier to spread their falsehood than the truth. And the threat has escalated in this instance. There is someone out there right now who is holding knowledge that is so damning and explosive that people are pleading with them to come clean. Here's the twist, though. They have no intention of saving you. They're considering rescuing themselves. The funny aspect is that they genuinely think that by informing you now, after all the harm has been done, they would appear more honorable. Bless their tiny, naive hearts. You won't view confessions the same way when you learn why this truth won't rescue them and how their attempt at redemption has been doomed by the time. This isn't a gossip situation. Watching someone attempt to swim after setting the ocean on fire is the subject of this. First of all, they aren't pleading for justice. They are pleading for a deal. Justice is not what they are pleading for. They are pleading for a deal. That's the main idea. The sudden need to speak up is hardly the result of a moral awakening when someone has been suppressing the truth for this long. It originates from the understanding that their silence is no longer advantageous. They don't care about repairing previous injuries, cleaning your name, or even writing off the wrongs they did at this point. They are worried about controlling harm, particularly their own. The fact that they are pleading does not mean that they are finally making the proper decision. It indicates their desperation to control the disclosure of the facts. To lessen the impact on themselves, they wish to manipulate the tempo, tone, and framing. They believe they can still fabricate a tale to portray themselves as a hesitant hero rather than a willful accomplice in the wrong if they can confess before someone else reveals them. They want to take the credit for doing the right thing without having to pay for their first mistake. People begin to regard the truth like money when they get to this point. They attempt to exchange it for more leniency, less repercussions, and occasionally even compassion. They start using words strategically, exposing just enough to seem courageous while keeping enough to preserve their own reputation. They convince themselves that it's still honesty, but in truth, it's a confessional deal. They can deceive those who have lived through the devastation, but they can't mislead those who are outside and don't know the whole tale. The irony here is that they can't find the deal they're looking for. They believe that by revealing the truth at the right moment, they may avoid the consequences. However, they fail to see that a postponed truth erodes confidence. They have demonstrated that the truth was never their top concern by waiting until the pressure becomes intolerable. It was survival, and there's no turning back once you realize it. Therefore, keep this in mind while everyone is pleading with them to come tell you the truth. They don't do it to protect you from falsehoods. They do this in order to protect themselves from the full force of exposure. You really can't negotiate your way out of some situations, though. And one of them is this. Second, the information they possess can only reveal the harm. It cannot reverse it. The knowledge they possess can only reveal the harm. It cannot repair it. Most folks don't want to confront the harsh reality. After perpetuating a falsehood for this long, people frequently think that speaking the truth would somehow work as a reset button. However, it isn't how life operates. Words cannot turn back time, but they may acknowledge what has happened. They cannot take back the hurt, restore the trust, or reverse the consequences of decisions taken behind closed doors. Truth doesn't repair damage that has already been done. It just highlights the extent and intentionality of the wound. The scars won't go away right away when this reality is revealed. Rather, it will validate your long-held suspicions, that it took deliberate quiet for the injury to persist thus long, and that the harm was not unintentional. They don't want to think about that portion. They want to think that by confessing, they would appear brave. In reality, though, it reveals how long they were prepared to maintain the falsehood. It exposes their affiliations, their priorities, and the reality that they never put your welfare first. This explains why the weight of late truth is so great. The freshness of honesty is not present. It comes with the burden of being late, and everything is altered by that weight. The truth is increasingly used as proof rather than as a remedy. It's evidence of how long they stand by and let the harm happen. The worst aspect is that the falsehood damaged more individuals and spread farther the longer it persisted. Therefore, There won't be a moment of redemption when they eventually talk. It will be an epiphany about who they truly are, not about what transpired. Sometimes people forget that it can be just as damaging to reveal the truth later as it is to keep it to themselves. Since no confession can change the past, the harm has already been ingrained in the narrative by the time it is published. Ultimately, neither they nor anybody else will be saved by their truth. Their silence will appear louder than any lies they have ever said, since it will only validate what has already been experienced. Third, they are acting out of fear of being exposed by someone else, not out of compassion. Mercy is not their motivation. It's a worry of being exposed by someone else. That is the true motivation for their newfound interest in doing morally. Silence was their safest weapon for a long time. It allowed them to maintain control. It protected them from responsibility and gave them complete control over the story. However, a change has occurred. Another person is aware. The same truth, possibly a more comprehensive one, is held by someone else. And because of that understanding, their silence has become a ticking time bomb. They aren't talking because they feel guilty or have developed a conscience. They're talking because they can no longer afford to be the story's gatekeeper. Panic strikes when they recognize that someone else may expose them without their spin. In order to influence how the truth is presented, they wish to outshine that individual. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but also the souls of many others through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's great design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Take action now. Share your blessings to exalt His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. They believe they can cushion the shock, establish the tone, and give the impression that they were always inclined toward honesty if they say it first. Their admission is so flimsy because of this. It's not courageous. It's a tactic. It isn't a moral position. There is a race against the clock. They are attempting to get ahead of the narrative because they believe it will benefit them, not because it will benefit you. They have witnessed enough for them to understand that when someone else speaks the truth, it is unvarnished and unadulterated. However, they may edit, polish, and add just enough emotional appeal to their story to make themselves appear to be the victim of their circumstances rather than the one who caused the harm. They overlook the fact that everything is revealed by this kind of timing. When the truth is spoken out of self-preservation rather than honesty, people can tell. It conveys a different energy and tone. Because attempting to outshine someone else reveals that they had no intention of telling you in the first place. It feels planned, orchestrated, and manipulated. Ultimately, this is hardly a charitable gesture. It's a defensive tactic used by someone who understands that losing control of the truth will deprive them of all the control they've been holding on to. And they are most afraid of that type of exposure. Fourth, they hope that forgiveness can be accelerated by the truth. As if confessing instantly clears the slate, they hope that the truth will be a quick route to forgiveness. Admitting what they did is seen by them as a great gesture, a magic key that would suddenly open your heart and put an end to their wrongdoing. To them, the truth is a deal. I offer you my truth, and you forgive me. They overlook the fact that words alone cannot bring about forgiveness, particularly in the wake of profound betrayal. It is predicated on altered conduct, sincere regret, and a readiness to make amends, none of which can be maintained for very long. This is when their error in judgment comes into play. They think it's difficult to tell you the truth, but really, it's the simplest thing they can do right now. Rebuilding trust, being consistent, and demonstrating that the same patterns won't recur would be the actual job. But that takes time and humility. Nor do they desire either. The fast track is what they desire. They desire forgiveness without having to go through the trouble of earning it. They undervalue you because they think you're still in the same place they left you, vulnerable, self-conscious, and in need of closure. They think you'll accept their confession without inquiry since you've been craving it, and it will feel like water in a desert. They fail to see that you have already weathered the storm, recovered, and rebuilt certain aspects of yourself without their assistance. You no longer have an urgent need for their truth. You've mastered the art of living without it. And you can see deception for what it is if you are no longer in a desperate situation. Truth without change is risky because of this. It turns into an additional control mechanism. While silently evading accountability for the consequences of their conduct, they might portray themselves as the courageous individual who at last came clean. They may present their admission as a moral triumph, but it's really just another act of self-interest. They may thus think that by telling you the truth, you will forgive them more quickly, but in reality, they are just demonstrating to you how little they have changed. Because the truth isn't the end, as anyone who genuinely comprehends the gravity of what they've done knows. The proof that they are not the same individual who inflicted the harm is just getting started. The fifth is that the confession will be partial and contrived. The confession won't be whole, it will be constructed. You need to be prepared for that section. One does not just turn on a switch and begin serving unvarnished honesty after living with a falsehood for a long enough period of time. They have already practiced, edited, and rewritten the tale in their minds to ensure that it doesn't totally ruin them by the time they are prepared to come clean. Instead of giving you the version that discloses the most, they will offer you the one that costs them the least. Like a picture on a wall, they will carefully frame what they say. You'll see fine details in the places where they appear guilty, perplexed, or even harmed. However, the sections that demonstrate willful injury, premeditated treachery, or blatant self-interest will be removed. They will refer to it as telling the truth since, in theory, they are just disclosing specific parts of it, but these will be carefully selected. The ugliest, messiest elements will remain hidden away where they believe you won't notice them. To appear genuine, they could even include a little amount of self-incrimination. The oldest trick in the book is this one. While the actual wrongdoing is still hidden, confess to anything little to give the impression that you are not hiding anything. They want the recognition for being open and honest without having to pay for complete publicity. In this manner, if the full truth is ever revealed, they may say they told you most of it before and that everything they didn't tell you was forgotten or unimportant. Partial truth may be more misleading than a complete falsehood, which is the issue here. Your mind will automatically attempt to fill in the blanks when you are given pieces. You may fill up such holes with presumptions that make things appear better than they actually are if you have enough faith in them. And they're depending on that very thing. Therefore, even if they could portray their confession as a courageous and altruistic gesture, realize that it was staged for the sake of appearances. The bare canvas isn't it. It's a meticulously chosen photo that aims to convey effort, regret, and sincerity while preserving the very elements that would permanently alter your perception of them. And you won't realize what's missing if they get their way. Sixth, they're not interested in clearing your name. They wish to atone for their sins. They're not interested in clearing your name. They wish to atone for their sins. People frequently overlook such distinction. On the surface, it may appear that they are now coming out to support you, correct the record, and repair the harm that their lies or silence did. Their true goal, however, isn't justice for you. They find solace in it. Too much time spent carrying a burdensome truth may make it feel like a weight on the soul. And in time, people become more focused on how it's hurting them than on how it affects you. Telling the truth turns into a self-serving kind of atonement. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be with you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the world's fleeting concerns. As the Holy Bible says, everything done in faith will be rewarded by God's abundant blessings. Luke 6 verse 38, like that mighty oak tree, our roots are deeply anchored in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stance we hold is secured by His power. And now, you have the opportunity to be a part of this blessing. When you click this Super Thanks button and make a $100 donation, this act will return to you 100-fold. They can convince themselves that they are doing morally without ever considering the reasons behind their delayed action. And they'll want praise for their alleged bravery when they do speak. As though the years of harm they permitted to accumulate are undone by this one action. The idea of repairing your reputation doesn't drive them. The idea of regaining their own feeling of tranquility inspires them. Their interpretation of the reality is therefore frequently tinged with self-congratulation. They want you and everyone else to think of them as the person who saved the day, even though it is painfully clear that they only cared about it when they began to experience the negative effects of suppressing it. They are not giving their confession away. It's a release of emotions. They throw the truth at your feet in the hopes that it will ease their burden, leaving you to bear the shock, the pain, and the consequences once more. They are unaware that this type of self-serving candor frequently makes matters worse. When someone is speaking to you for their personal gain rather than yours, you can tell. The delivery is false, the timing is dubious, and the tone is strange. It's not meant to uplift you. It's about getting rid of the guilt that has been bothering them. Therefore, even though the outside world may view it as bravery, you will know better. Speaking out when the speaker finds quiet intolerable is not courage. Genuine courage would have been speaking the truth when doing so may have prevented harm. This is only a case of self-righteousness masquerading as bravery. Seventh, they are only talking because it is risky to remain silent. Only when quiet has become perilous are they speaking. They clung to their silence without question as long as it served their interests, whether it was to preserve their reputation, absolve them of responsibility, or keep them in good standing with the appropriate individuals. Back then, it had nothing to do with strategy, morals, or allegiance. Convenience was the key. When it kept people comfortable and protected, it was simple to keep silent. Now, however, things are different. The same secrecy that had benefited them is now working against them. Perhaps rumors have begun to spread. Perhaps someone else is about to reveal the same secret they have been keeping. Perhaps things have changed so drastically that they now appear suspicious rather than innocent because of their quiet. This is the fact, regardless of the trigger. They are not speaking because it is morally correct. They are speaking because it is safer for them to do so. Their performance starts at this point. They'll portray their newfound candor as a moral awakening, a sign that they've had enough of themselves. In actuality, though, they could get along just fine until the danger of being silent surpassed the danger of speaking up. Now, being quiet may cost them freedom, prospects, or even relationships. They have determined that it is wiser to confess. It's really a survival strategy cloaked in morality. They've calculated that by speaking now, they have an opportunity to steer the conversation, present themselves as helpful, and maybe win over compassion. The unfortunate thing is that some people will purchase it. It will appear to be an act of bravery to people outside. It will be obvious to you that this is only the next move in their self-preservation chess game. In situations like these, there is a risk that their timing may be seen as genuine. However, sincerity encompasses more than simply behavior. And you can be certain that their remarks are not coming from a place of courage when their motivation is to protect themselves rather than the truth. Their motivation is fear. It's not about doing the right thing here. In order to preserve themselves, they must take the appropriate actions. And it is a very separate matter. The eighth is that they don't realize how much you already know. They're underestimating your level of knowledge. They're mentally getting ready to reveal something shocking. Something so enormous and spectacular that it will leave you speechless and in a state of shock. They've most likely mentally practiced the scene, picturing your stunned expression when they eventually tell the truth. They fail to understand, however, that you have been living in the ruins of their behavior for far too long to remain in the dark. The bits they believe they are going to give you. Without their assistance, you have already begun gathering them one by one and subtly assembling the jigsaw. Patterns become apparent after spending this much time in the aftermath. Lying begins to contradict itself. Actions are repeated. Little mistakes made by several people add up to an image that is too obvious to ignore. Even if they may not have told you everything, you've seen enough clues to know exactly what transpired. Furthermore, because your version is based on what they attempted to conceal rather than what they decided to reveal, it is somewhat more accurate. They're having trouble understanding that section. Although the harm they caused has already spoken louder than they could ever hope to, they still believe they have control over the information. Their words don't form the basis of your comprehension. It is based on personal experience. Additionally, lived experience has a tendency of dispelling the delusions people have fought so hard to preserve. As a result, they will encounter something unexpected when they eventually speak, expecting to see you fall apart beneath the weight of their truth. Be calm. You've already adapted your life to the truth they're just now prepared to acknowledge, not because it doesn't matter. It will seem like a replay of a program you've seen too many times when they make their big revelation. When someone who has had to survive in the dark is underestimated, this is the risk. Without being informed, they become proficient at seeing. In reality, they are only validating what you already knew, even if they believe they are taking on the role of the storyteller. Furthermore, they will not get the authority they had hoped for from that affirmation. It will simply serve to emphasize how small and late their statements are. Nineth, they're attempting to exert final control over the story. This is their final attempt to steer the story. Even when they say they are coming clean, they can't help but try to control the narrative. To soften your perception of them, they will intersperse their confession with well-placed emotional triggers, deceptive omissions, and subtle distortions. To make the worst aspects of their position more difficult to identify, they will reorganize events, change dates, and conveniently obfuscate some elements rather than presenting the truth as it is. A popular strategy of theirs will be sowing uncertainty. They'll use language that makes you wonder if you're remembering things accurately. They may even appear taken aback by your account, which might be seen as a sign that you have a bad memory or that you completely misinterpreted the circumstances. Clearing the air is not the goal of this strategy. In order for them to remain concealed in the fog, it must be sufficiently obscured. Additionally, they will use emotional bait in an attempt to elicit pity. This might be done by exaggerating their personal struggles at the time, portraying themselves as under duress, or emphasizing instances in which they found it difficult to make the decision to remain silent, as if doing so somehow lessens the impact of the decision. It's all a part of the show. Instead of portraying themselves as eager traders, they reframe themselves as unwilling participants. By doing this, they are able to present their function as complex, conflicted, and, in a perverse sense, even honorable. They want the ultimate account of what happened to show that they didn't just keep the truth from people. They tormented over it, shielded particular individuals, or bided their time. They will stop at nothing to transform an obvious betrayal into a moral conundrum, because they can be hidden in the chaos of blurred lines. They are unaware that these strategies actually cause more harm than good. Control was always their first goal, as seen by the necessity to change the story even at the very end. Not responsibility, not the truth, and most definitely not your recovery. And once you understand that, their confession is more about seeing them hold on to the remnants of a past they have already lost than it is about finding closure. Number 10. They will pay a higher price for the truth than for the falsehood. They will pay a higher price for the truth than for the deception. They have been able to live in quiet for years, navigating life without having to deal with the full consequences of their actions. They were able to preserve their connections, their reputation, and their standing in the eyes of others by lying or by not telling the truth. It served as their barrier, safety net, and means of managing how the outside world perceived them. However, that cover breaks the instant the truth is revealed. Unbeknownst to them, the price of truth is rarely paid in secret. It's nasty, public, and frequently irrevocable. The truth will destroy their reputation, even if the falsehood made them feel guilty. They will be viewed differently by those who formerly trusted them. In addition to what they did, the length of time they concealed it will make those who supported them feel deceived. Critics may become friends. Allies can become strangers. Their meticulously constructed image will begin to crumble in ways they are powerless to halt. Relationships won't be the end of the loss. There will be no more opportunities. There will be no further invitations. They will no longer be able to enter some of the rooms they used to be able to freely. Some individuals will never forget, even if they are able to forgive. Furthermore, complete repair in the realm of trust is made possible by forgetting. Without it, their name is constantly shadowed and accompanied by a question mark. They have stuck to the untruth for so long because of this. It was simpler, not because they thought it was right. They were able to carry on with their lives without being interrupted by the falsehood. However, once the truth is out, the instant their own words open the floodgates cannot be undone or rewinded. The bitter irony comes next. They believe that by speaking the truth, they would at last feel better. They will actually receive a new world, though, one in which the truth accompanies them everywhere. It will become ingrained in their narrative to the point when it overshadows their justifications, and efforts to restore their reputation. They hardly paid for the falsehood. They will lose all they were attempting to safeguard if the truth is revealed. 11. They oppose your freedom. Their goal is to make you reliant on their version. They oppose your freedom. Their goal is to make you reliant on their version. One of the game's most strategic movements is this one. Someone can portray the truth in a way that makes it appear like they've done you a great service when they finally decide to share it after holding it captive for so long. They will try to convince you that you would still be in the dark without them. They will also portray themselves as the main character, the keeper of the key to your calm, clarity, and vindication, since they are the ones telling the tale. In this location, the actual trap is placed. They turn their confession into something you feel obligated to, rather than a liberating release. They will gently remind you or tell you directly that you should be proud of their bravery in speaking up, as though speaking the truth were a charitable deed rather than a long overdue obligation. They will expect thanks. They guarantee that the balance of power remains in their favor by doing this. You're not really free. You're bound by their account of what happened. And don't worry, we'll alter their version. They'll mold it to shield certain individuals, change specific chronologies, and present themselves in the best possible light. They may argue that you're being unappreciative or contemptuous of the work they put in to come forward if you question them. It's the best kind of emotional leverage. They have made it seem as though rejecting their vision of reality is equivalent to rejecting the truth itself. Altogether, they also maintain their influence thanks to this strategy. They continue to be the primary source that people go for clarification if they have any subsequent doubts about the tale. This implies that long after the initial confession, they can still sway perception, distort interpretations, and reveal new information. Even though you may know the truth, it still exists in their shadow. The most hazardous aspect. This dependence may cause you to question your own comprehension of what transpired. Your own memory may gradually be replaced by their retelling, binding you to their story without your knowledge. And they want precisely that. For you to live in a version of reality that maintains their power, not for you to be free. Number 12. Now is the perfect time to click the super thanks button on YouTube and share God's blessings. You can contribute to his plan and become a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you multiplied beyond your expectations. Remember, his protection and blessings are with you in every step you take and every donation you make. You become part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, radiant being, unshakable like his mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with this confidence and courage. Be blessed, and may the Lord's light guide your way. The timing has cursed the truth, so it will not save them. The time has cursed the truth, so it will not save them. Despite its strength, truth is open to investigation. Withholding it for an extended period of time turns it from a means of atonement into proof of negligence. Their voice could have prevented the harm or at least lessened the impact, and they could have spoken when it counted, when the lie was still new. However, they didn't. They decided to keep quiet, and the results of that silence are irrevocable. When they do talk at last, the reality doesn't come across as consoling. It serves as evidence that they were more concerned with their comfort than your independence. Every statement they make will be compared to the amount of time they were silent. It won't feel honorable to admit. It will seem planned. Only when the house has been completely destroyed by fire would someone attempt to expel the smoke out of self-preservation. Truth may be intentionally stamped by timing. Courage is the scent of early truth. The scent of late truth is one of survival. And people will notice a difference as soon as they open their lips. The content of their confession will not be as significant as the weight of their delay. It will be more than simply their eventual admission. The reason why now lingers in the air will be the unsaid fact. For them, the tragedy is that when the truth is cursed by bad timing, it frequently backfires. It arouses mistrust rather than sympathy. It reveals their timidity rather than improving their reputation. People will look back on the months or years of silence and see how their voice may have saved them from loss, miscommunication, or betrayals. However, they remained silent until it became a burden. Ultimately, the truth won't save them. It will serve as their mirror, reflecting back the fear, doubt, and selfishness that shaped their decisions. Furthermore, truth doesn't open doors when it comes this late. The timing has cursed it, and it shuts them. Their statements will resemble the flicker of a candle lighted in an already ash-filled house rather than light piercing the night. 13. They fear what the facts may reveal about you. They fear what the truth would prove about you because it will destroy the story they have worked so hard to create about you the instant it is revealed. It won't be a simple confession once they start talking. On your discernment, it will be an inadvertent crown. It will demonstrate that your cautions weren't paranoid, that your instincts weren't wild guesses, and that your alleged overreactions were, in fact, based on facts. Their greatest dread is this: being exposed for who you really are, not just for what they did. Someone who, when everyone else was blind, could see through the fog. Your aptitude for making connections, seeing changes, and spotting unspoken words will all be validated in a flash. When that occurs, the labels that they or others attempted to apply to you, such as being too sensitive or a theatrical, crazy troublemaker, will slide off of you and never come back. Once the truth is out, the history they have been telling will be altered. Those who question you will have to mentally relive past exchanges and acknowledge that you were the one with the true narrative the whole time. You won't be stumbling in the dark, it will show. They couldn't put out the light you were using to navigate. They are at risk because it permanently alters the balance of power. The worst thing that can happen to someone whose entire approach is based on making you appear uncertain or unstable is for you to be proven correct. Because from now on, every argument you have, every caution you issue, and every instinct you share will be taken seriously. Even if it was awkward to believe you in the past, people will remember that you were correct. That is the reason they have been slow to act, have put things off, and have remained silent up to this point. The truth will uplift you rather than harm others. And that's nearly worse in their minds. Because the truth not only clears your name, but also establishes your authority when it validates who you are. And after that, they won't be able to influence you to question yourself again. 14. The truth will cement their legacy rather than save them. The truth will cement their legacy rather than save them. They hope that their admission would be viewed as a brave deed, a time when they at last made the correct decision. But history isn't like that. They won't be portrayed as the protagonist of the tale the instant they speak. They'll go down in history as the villain who initially prompted the necessity for a confession. The relief in their tone will be forgotten. They will never forget the debris they left behind. They were the reason the truth had to be told. Their name will be associated with the series of circumstances that led to the need for the truth, rather than with the act of correcting the record. In hearts and minds, the headlines will not read, "They told the truth." The years of deceit, manipulation, and silence won't be erased by the confession. It will draw attention to them. It will draw attention to how long they remained silent, how much harm was done during that time, and how carefully they made their decisions. They don't see this portion. Confession freezes the scoreboard rather than resetting it. The ultimate total will reveal not just the damage they inflicted, but also their self-centered inaction prior to taking action. Instead, a timestamp attesting to their tardiness in reaching integrity's table will serve as their redemption moment. People will also notice the difference between the time they could have talked and the time they did speak when they look back. They will be more defined by that gap than by the confession. They'll eventually learn that the truth doesn't necessarily make you a better person. Sometimes your tale and permanent marker are written by the ink. After then, your role cannot be changed. All you can do is accept the reality that you will always be known as the one who forced the truth to come to light. When the time comes, the truth is never just about exposing the hidden. It's about revealing the reasons, circumstances, and outcomes that influenced the silence that came before it. The individual everyone is pleading with to speak up isn't doing so out of compassion or bravery. They are escaping from self-preservation, terror, and a last-ditch effort to control what remains of their narrative. Their admission will not repair the harm, remove the scars, or change the past. Rather, it will validate your existing knowledge. That they choose to remain silent. They plan their delay, and their version of events will always be shaped to serve their own interests rather than yours. They oppose your freedom. They wish to keep you bound to their story and reliant on their account of what happened. By speaking now, they want to cleanse their conscience and expedite the process of forgiveness. However, they are unaware that their truth has been cursed by the time. It will not save them. It will solidify their reputation as the masterminds of treachery. And when their words eventually come out, they will confirm every gut feeling you had, every caution you issued, and every instance in which you wondered what was actually happening. This is the harsh fact of waiting for the person who held the truth captive to reveal it. The truth is neither a gift to you nor a means of redemption for others. It's a reckoning. Furthermore, the last person to speak does not own that calculation. Whoever endured the stillness first is entitled to it. If this truth gave you strength, please share it, leave a comment, and subscribe for more insight that goes beyond the obvious. For understanding the truth is just the first step. The true power is in owning it. Don't keep this message to yourself if it resonated with you and changed your viewpoint. To ensure you never miss the unvarnished facts we provide here, click the subscribe button. If the video contradicted your preconceived notions, you might enjoy it. Leave a comment below with your tale or opinion, and kindly forward this to someone who should hear it. We're not only looking for the truth together, we're taking ownership of it and growing stronger as a result. Here, your voice counts. Let's continue this movement.